This is Car Tracks with Turtle Wax. Your car says a lot about you. So if we asked your car what it would say about you, what would it say?
Listen, you dropped one of those tiny cheeseburgers under the seat like last week, and now we're both dry heaving at the stench. Do us a favor, grab some turtle wax, and let's get to work.
This has been Car Tracks with Turtle Wax. You are how you car.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
The snack wrap is back. This episode of Giggly Squad is brought to you by McDonald's, and I'm so excited to tell you that the snack wrap featuring juicy white meat chicken, shredded lettuce, melty cheese, creamy ranch, sorry I'm drooling on the microphone right now, all wrapped in a soft tortilla, is back on the menu. They have it in ranch or spicy, a spicy pepper sauce if you're feeling frisky. Try the snack wrap that broke the internet at a McDonald's near you.
Hey, it's Maya and Sim from the Girls That Invest podcast. If you are an IT or security pro, you know managing devices, identities, and applications can feel overwhelming and honestly risky. That's where Trellica by 1Password comes in. It helps conquer SaaS sprawl and shadow IT by discovering every app your team uses, managed or not. With pre-built app profiles, you can assess risk, manage access, and even optimize your software spend. Plus, it simplifies onboarding, offboarding, and compliance, all while cutting costs by eliminating unused licenses. Take the first step to better security for your team. Learn more at onepassword.com/special offer.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, July 25th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on context, and help each other understand.
Today, Microsoft thinks chatbots should be more personal and age.
Yeah, get older, like me. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm good quit now.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. Yeah, Microsoft's AI CEO, Mustafa Suleyman, you might know him. He founded DeepMind, Google's DeepMind, told the Colin and Samir show this week that his team will launch a virtual character for the Copilot digital assistant. Part of that is the new appearance feature that Microsoft previewed this week. Select Copilot Labs users in Canada, the UK, and the US can access that. Appearance gives you a little marshmallowy blob with a face on it to chat with, and it can respond with expressions like, oh, it looks surprised or happy or whatever. Also has a conversational memory so that it knows what you've talked about before. This is similar to what Suleyman was working on at Inflection AI before the Inflection AI team joined Microsoft in March of last year. On the podcast, Suleyman said,
Copilot will certainly have a kind of permanent, identity, a presence, and it will have a room that it lives in, and it will age. I'm really interested in this idea of digital patina. The things I love in my world are the things that are a little bit worn and rubbed down and have got scuff marks and that makes it feel like it's mine. And unfortunately, in the digital world at the moment, we don't have a sense of age. We don't have any kind of sense that something, has temporality at all, actually. It's sort of in an infinite space.
So what do you think, Gwen? You want your chatbots to age?
I don't. I really get the approach that I think I get the desire that we're talking about here. Like as a weeb, I'll say like it's like that wabi sabi. It's like I get it. There's something very there's like a history that you can see very visually. I don't know. And I think that in a way, though, I do think some digital things do age, but it doesn't age in the same way that physical things do. Like, I don't know, like this is very like more inside baseball for programming, but I can tell, when I look at my code, for example, how old it is, where I was when I wrote it. I can see different trends in maybe what is popular in my community. What I can almost like kind of visually tell, oh, I wrote this back in like 2005. And this is when I thought that this was the right thing to do. Oh, no. And so it's a little bit different. Like it's not the same. There's not an analog to maybe scuffs But there is a sense of age and time, or like that same feeling you get when you see a GeoCity site that somehow is still up. You know, you do have, I think it's the same feeling. I just don't know how, you know, and it's also very personal, like how we feel about like maybe even what we see as patina. So I like the concept. I just have a really hard time visualizing what that could be for an AI or for a chatbot.
I don't know if age is the right word, and I know you used scuff marks and everything, but all the examples you gave and all the examples I can think of myself are things that stopped improving.
Yes.
Stopped updating, right? Yeah. You look at that old code and you're like, ooh, I don't write like that. My own writing, if I look at my own novels that I wrote decades ago, I'm like, ooh, I would not write that way now. And that's because I have continued to update. But that's also because we've aged, right? We've become different coders, different writers. So maybe that's the kind of thing Suleiman's talking about, is it grows with you, it gets to know you, it matures. So it's not, he said the rub down and scuff marks thing, which make it sound like it doesn't change, right? Things that are rubbed down and get scuff marks are like old stuff that you don't change, but it still works. And that's not what chatbots are going to be for a long time, I wouldn't think. We're going to want them to continue to improve and update and get better. And like us, hopefully, mature and get better at what we do.
It's so weird because I think that also, I totally agree. So from that perspective, yeah, for sure. And the personalization and the fact that it, in a sense, knows who you are, right? It has progressed with you throughout your life so that maybe, for example, I don't know, right now, I ask it, you know, it knows that maybe like right now I like to work out a lot. I like to do crochet and I like to watch this in the show. Whereas in 10 years, I might be different. And so the way it approaches me, the way it asks me questions, the things that it knows that I like might be different. But it almost feels like that's like very transparent at the same time, because I think that's how we as people age as well with the people around us. Yeah. Like, for example, my husband and I think are quite different people in many ways than we were when we first met. But to us, that's been very like opaque. We can't tell.
It's one of the two. It's either transparent or opaque, but
we can't tell.
Yeah,
right?
it happens slow enough that I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So it's weird because this is like one of those things I think is so interesting because it's so ephemeral and it's hard to explain. And I totally understand the reason, the reasoning behind wanting to somehow, you know, make digital things resemble real life in this way. But it's that thing where it's just like really hard to put parameters around it and, you know, be able to also create it in such a way that it is communicated to everybody's experience. I just think it's a really fascinating problem.
Yeah, especially because I like the idea in theory anyway, and I know those who are apocalyptically minded will take this in a whole other direction, but I like the idea of a companion chatbot that gets to know me better and gets to understand me better. Like you're saying, like in your example, it could be like, hey, remember when you went through that period where you were crocheting a lot? Do you want to take that back up like 10 years from now? And you're like, oh, right. I forgot all about that sort of thing. Like that's interesting to me, obviously with safeguards and guidelines and everything like that, but privacy protections, et cetera. And Suleiman is really into that. That's what he was doing at Inflection was like, we want to make companions for people. I don't know that everyone needs that, but even if you just need it for helping you code, it wouldn't be as vast and personable as a friend, but it could be a coding assistant that grows with you and gets better at being your type of coding assistant because it understands your quirks and your preferences.
No, and that's a really big thing. I think even, you know, people that I'm very close to, like some of my, unsurprisingly, maybe some of my best friends are also Android developers. That's how wide my space is.
Weird. Some of my best friends are podcasters.
But, you know, even between us, you know, we have very distinct styles, very distinct things that we care about, very distinct things that, you know, piss us off or make us happy. And it's very much like a personality. And then, you know, when you're in a shared space, you know, just like real life, you kind of compromise or you know which parts of yourself to share or hold back, you know, just for the sake of, you know, accomplishing a task or doing a thing. So, yeah, it could be that the AI knows me and hopefully would also know how to provide feedback in a way that is that I appreciate. Because sometimes that doesn't happen. So I could definitely see that. That could be really, really useful. I think that would be cool. And I think that's where, I think that does spark some interest.
Yeah, there was also a lot of talk about becoming an assistant for creators and replacing YouTube somehow. And he gave out his email address. It's a really interesting episode, a really interesting discussion. So definitely go check out the Colin and Samir Show episode if you want to hear more about what Mustafa Suleiman said. It was a good interview.
All right. Well, DTS is made possible by you, the listener. We want to take time to thank Paul Thiessen, Ali Sanjabi, AB Puppy, and welcome new patron, Christ.
Yay, new patron.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Did you know adults 60 plus lose more than $60 billion each year to financial exploitation? Greenlight's new Family Shield plan empowers you to monitor your accounts for suspicious activity, protect yourself with up to $1 million identity theft coverage, and reassure loved ones that you're safe with location sharing and place alerts. Get peace of mind today at greenlight.com/protect. That's greenlight.com/protect.
When you take Balance of Nature fruits and veggie supplements, you get a moment of peace, knowing you're getting 31 ingredients of whole fruits and vegetables. It's like pressing pause, if only for a second, to focus on what really matters to you. A simple choice, a deep breath, and the reassurance that you're taking care of you. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off your first preferred set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
There's more we need to know today. Let's get right to the briefs.
Intel reported Q2 revenue that beat expectations and has completed the majority of its planned layoffs, ending the year with 75,000 employees. CU Lip-Bu Tan also announced it will cancel factory construction in Germany and Poland, slow down construction of a factory in Ohio, and consolidate testing and assembly operations in Vietnam and Malaysia. As for cutting-edge chip development, Tan said, "Going forward, our investment in Intel 14A will be based on confirmed customer commitments, and it would consider pausing or canceling 14A if it doesn't get a significant customer for it."
Yeah, so a lot of the reporting around this is the sky is falling. And in fact, I've seen headlines that says Intel announces more layoffs. And maybe I'm reading this wrong, but I read the report as Intel announced almost all of its layoffs are done. It has done the layoffs. Either way, it's not good news. So I get that. And then the cutting edge chip development is also, I'm seeing a lot of headlines. They're like, Intel announces it might stop foundry production. And it's like, no, what they said is they're going to not do 14A if they can't find customers for it, which makes sense. If you can't get anyone to buy your thing, then you're not going to make the thing. But on the other hand, that is bad news. Like that alone is bad news. If you're saying your earnings report are always your best look, and if your best look is like, well, if we can't find customers, we might not do it. That does say a lot. But it isn't like Intel is announcing they're canceling their foundries today.
Yeah, I mean, it's more, it seems like a pulling back, almost like in us.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say austerity measures, but you're just like, hey, we just got to like chill out. We can't be like we were, when we were younger and just go ahead and do all kinds of crazy things. We got to like, buckle down kind of thing. But I don't know. Not sky falling, but definitely not a great period.
The sky is slowly sinking towards Intel, but it's not falling. I think is what's going on here. Oh. And I think the other thing is Pat Gelsinger was saying a lot of the same things when he was the CEO of Intel of like, we got to turn the ship around. We got to make some cuts. We got to tighten up. And Lip Bhutan is saying the same things, right? And people are like, okay, but at what point do you stop doing that and you start growing? So it is not an enviable job. Last year, the European Commission adopted something called the Transparency and Targeting of Political Advertising Law, or the TTPA. It requires companies that sell ads to label political advertisements, so you know that they're political, provide information about who paid for them, information about the election or referendum they're about, and how much the ad cost, as well as what targeting mechanisms were used. So a lot of paperwork, but a lot of information for you when you see a political ad to know, like, okay, who's behind this? Also requires users to give explicit consent if a company wants to use personal data to target them with political ads. That kind of is de rigueur in the European Union right now as far as targeting goes. But here's the rub. It forbids companies from using race, ethnicity, or political opinion from being used to target an ad. And, if you've got people who want to target Democrats, it's kind of hard to target them. Well, Democratic Social Democrats, since we're talking about Europe, it's kind of hard to target them if you're not allowed to do that. Meta says the TTPA places extensive restrictions on ad targeting and delivery, which would restrict how political and social issue advertisers can reach their audiences and lead to people seeing less relevant ads on our platform. And as a result, Meta has joined Google in saying it will stop selling political ads and therefore running political ads in the European Union starting in October.
This feels like something that, I don't know, will have some kind of some kind of unforeseen impact like over time. And I'm not the kind of smart that can tell what this is, but it just always feels like little decisions like this will have some kind of weird ripple effect in like 10 years when we realize that because of this particular law and this particular move by, say, Meta and Google, that it shifted, that somehow opinions or information that gets to people shifts in certain ways. And I'm not even saying like, again, not that smart, not smart in this way. It's just so interesting, like how these little decisions might actually change things. And I don't know.
No, the law of unintended consequences will apply, right? Yeah, absolutely. That speech will go somewhere, and you may not like where it goes. Yes. I also think that while it's reasonable to say like, well, if we can't even target the political ads, maybe we shouldn't take them. The political campaigns will still pay you even if you can't target them properly.
Yes.
So this is turning down money. And I think it's more of a gambit to bargain and put pressure on the very people passing the laws, the politicians who buy these ads.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know if it'll change anything, but it does feel like Meta and Google, yes, it's probably both things are true. It's probably more trouble than it's worth in a lot of ways, but also it's meant to send a message.
All right. Well, speaking of Google is testing a cursor-like coding assistant called Opal. US users can try it in Google Labs and can create web apps by using text prompts to describe the app or mix existing apps from a gallery. Once the app is ready, you can use an editor panel to look at which internal prompt dictated each step and edit as necessary. You can also manually add steps. And finally, you can publish the app on the web and share the link with others. You could describe it as a more visual version of Google's AI Studio.
Yeah. You don't use like Cursor or anything like that, do you?
I should. Like I have been using Claude for some things. I work in Android Studio. Android Studio has its own kind of like version of Gemini. So I've heard a lot of good things about Cursor. I have an Android developer friend who loves Cursor. So this could be really interesting.
Yeah, this is the first time, probably because it's in Google. So I'm like, I don't have to give over the hump of signing up for something because I'm already there. Where I'm like, oh, I wonder if I should try making a web thing, and just to see if it's as easy as Google would like you to think it is. But I also know this isn't necessarily the first or even the best version of this kind of thing.
It's so interesting because, like, I think even as someone who's spent their entire life programming, even when it comes to say, like, so for example, I use Squarespace for my own website, and I still find it like I don't have time to learn how to like do all the ins and outs of Squarespace to do like, fancy, the kind of fancy things that I want to do. And so something like this actually is really appealing because like I want to be like, well, I want a parallax feature here, and I want some like fireworks to shoot out of the bottom corner when someone hits this button. And then so I like that idea very, very much, especially again, as we've talked about before, kind of like, just to be able to bridge gaps where your knowledge or your skill set just isn't quite sufficient. I like it.
Axios and The Verge are both reporting that GPT-5 will release in August. You may recall that back on June 18th, Sam Altman told Andrew Main on the official OpenAI podcast that GPT-5 would come out this summer.
What is the time frame for GPT-5? When are we going to see this?
Probably sometime this summer.
Right.
I don't know exactly when.
Yeah. So July is almost over. So we're running out of summer. It seems unsurprising that August might be the time. The Verge's sources also say GPT-5 will launch with mini and nano versions. Whenever it gets here, the information sources say GPT-5 doing well, outperforming Claude Sonnet 4 in practical software and engineering tasks.
All right. So here's a bit of Apple news that Tom thought would be funny if one of the co-hosts of Android Faithful told you about. So Apple officially released the public betas of iOS 26, iPad OS 26, Mac OS Tahoe 26, Watch OS 26, and tvOS 26. Public betas can be accessed from the device and don't require you to have a developer account. Everything gets liquid glass. The Mac gets more powerful Spotlight and shortcuts. iOS gets the camera redesign and call filtering, and iPad OS gets smarter shortcuts, an improved Files app, and a new windowing system. Apple also updated its App Store age rating system to add 13 plus, 16 plus, and 18 plus ratings to the existing 4 plus and 9 plus ratings, and then take out the 12 plus and 17 plus ratings. You got all that? I know. Developers will also need to answer more age rating questions. Product listings will have more info to help parents decide which apps are appropriate for their children.
Thank you. You've made me very happy. I don't know why. It's actually just the way the rundown landed. I was like, oh, I guess we'll have Wen read all the Apple news. But yeah, I mean, people get excited about betas and they're easier to access. So that all makes sense. Everybody's going to get to take their pot shots at liquid glass. And the age rating systems being a little more robust is a way for them to prepare for parental controls and stuff like that.
No, I'm all for that. It's just, I just think it's interesting. And I just want to be like the fly in the wall to kind of, just to kind of curious about like the adjustments of like these different age like groups, and just kind of curious about like, even just as a developer myself who's trying to be aware of these things, just like, okay, so what's the reasoning between like these two age groups and that age groups? Like, what are we protecting? What kind of threats are we worried about? So it's all very interesting and well done. So
yeah. On you. The Internet Archive, which you can find at archive.org, most famous for the Wayback Machine, has been granted U.S. federal depository status. That makes it part of the 1,100 libraries in the United States that can provide public access to government documents. I mean, anybody can provide public access, but they get them direct from the source. They're part of the system. Each member of Congress can designate up to 2 libraries to provide public access to government information, and that includes things like published budgets, the Code of Federal Regulations, presidential documents, economic reports, census data. Archive.org already includes these documents, but it had to go out and find them and then replicate them, and so this will plug them into the pipeline and they'll get them immediately and directly, and it'll improve its access basically.
All right. Well,
I used to work at a federal depository library. That's probably one of the reasons I was excited to put this in there.
I actually think this is really cool. And I like that stipulation that each member of Congress can designate up to 2 libraries. So presumably like, a congressman would understand like what local libraries would be, the most like would have the most benefit in receiving these. I think that was at first I was like, oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is really cool. Like,
yeah, senator from California designated archive.org. And now everybody in the country, actually everybody in the world, can access this stuff. And the archive can now help other libraries with their digitization efforts and stuff like that. So
yeah, I guess, and especially in this world, we kind of worry about like proliferation of information public, like to public and just broadly, broad access. This is awesome. This is cool. All right. Well, another in the parade of tech companies striking deals with energy companies. Italy's Energy Dome company said Friday it will supply carbon-free energy to grids that power Google's operations. Energy Dome makes a battery that can store energy by compressing and liquefying carbon dioxide. It has a commercial plant in Sardinia that will supply energy to France's Engie Power utility this year.
Yeah, I want to be very excited about this. The idea of taking carbon dioxide out of the air and then using it for power storage is great. And the more I see tech companies signing deals to find sustainable energy sources for their increasing energy needs, the better. I think that is definitely the way forward. I got a little disconcerted when I went to find out when this Sardinia plant went online, and it has not gone online, apparently. It was supposed to go online at the end of 2024. Then it was supposed to go online in Q2 2025. It does not appear to still have gone online. Maybe it needed funding, and maybe Google's investment is the thing that it needed to get this off the ground. So I'm hoping this isn't vaporware. That becomes a pun when you think about carbon dioxide.
Yes, I was like going to say there's like a joke in there.
I didn't mean it to be, but there you go. But yeah, I want this to be a good news story. At least I hope it will be. Lyft will partner with Austria's Benteler Group to deploy its Holon, Holon, autonomous shuttles in the U.S. by the end of next year. Benteler shuttles do not need steering wheels, pedals, or windshields. They're that kind. Nuro makes them like that. I think Amazon Zoox makes them like that. They are good enough on routes, on predefined routes, that you don't need to even have anybody supervising. Lyft also has a partnership with Max Mobility for autonomous car service in Atlanta. So Lyft expanding these sorts of partnerships coming later this year. Uber also offers an autonomous ride service with WeRide in Abu Dhabi and Waymo in several U.S. cities. It looks like the Benteler partnership with Lyft is going to be used for airports, kind of shuttling you around on a predefined route, and with cities, I assume on city-run transportation routes.
Makes sense. All right, we're going to balance out the Apple news with some Samsung news. Samsung has closed a loophole in developer code that actually leaked One UI firmware that was in development. So basically, you could access Samsung's internal test servers, use to seed software updates, and download anything, which is fine unless you don't want folks to see that stuff. Samsung made a change, and now you can only get the publicly released firmware files, including betas from those servers. And some benchmarks spotted Samsung's Exynos 2600, implying it has a 10-core cluster of performance cores. Samsung reportedly began mass production of the mobile chip on a 2-nanometer process in June. And finally, Samsung's president and chief operating officer of its mobile division says the company is in talks with OpenAI, Perplexity, and others to provide AI services for its Galaxy devices. The idea is to give options beyond Gemini.
Yeah, sad to see all of those Samsung blogs, including some that our good friends work at, losing a loophole. But if anything, those folks are good at finding other loopholes. So I imagine this won't be the last One UI firmware leak we ever see. It just won't come from this method. And then, Samsung talking to multiple services. Apple takes a world of criticism for doing this. I kind of feel like it's just the way the platform makers are going to go. Yes, they may develop their own. Samsung may or may not. Apple is trying to, but it feels like, for now anyway, providing lots of options for folks is the thing that they are doing.
I mean, that it just kind of makes sense. It is weird just because the last few years, Samsung has partnered very tightly with Google and released a lot of like the same features, but branded as Galaxy AI. But I think it just drives with how people actually are using, like how people actually use chatbots. We all kind of have our preferences. There's so many out there. And I mean, I guess not really the same thing, but as a counter to kind of all of the other semi-related adjacent stories about, search engine choice, it kind of makes a sense that, at this point, with especially as a technology, especially we're kind of like in this very weird amorphous, like everyone's battling out and like leapfrogging over each other. It makes sense as maybe like a hardware OEM just to kind of play the field, if that is like the right way of saying it.
And in fact, when you were describing that, it made me realize, we don't use these things for a thing. We use them for a lot of things. So there's an argument to say Samsung should continue to use Gemini as Galaxy AI for the stuff you do on your phone. Like change the settings and do all of that. But then provide you Perplexity when you're doing a search, asking a question like, oh, do you want to ask it of OpenAI? Would you like to ask it of Perplexity? Like you don't have to, it's not an either or.
Yeah. In fact, so there's, on top of all this, there's a lot of other kind of more, domain specific AI. So as an Android person, I do a lot of Kotlin. The company that makes Kotlin is making their own AI. And they stated before that they actually internally, they use other other chatbots internally, depending on the specific task that they're doing. So something that might be more like text parsing, they might use one thing. Something that is more like, some other aspect of generating code might use another thing. And so, kind of leveraging the strengths of each one or just having a preference even for a specific domain makes a lot of sense. So,
you know what else makes a lot of sense? Buying stuff at our store. At least it makes sense to me. But did you know we have a store? We have a store. You can go to dailytechnewsshow.com/store. We got like mugs. We got mouse pads. We have t-shirts. They have our logos on them. They're useful. You can drink things out of the mugs. Like the whole thing. My favorite thing in there, though, is Scott Johnson designed a root beer / sarsaparilla glass for us with this like old timey take on the DTNS logo.
Oh my God, I need to have that.
It's so cool. Go check it out. dailytechnewsshow.com/store.
What's up? It's Sean Linda from Two Black Guys with Good Credit. If managed supply runs is still on your to-do list, here's your sign to upgrade. Walmart Business has the tech, tools, and services that make it ridiculously easy to stock up for your office or team. Think scheduled deliveries, multi-user accounts, and even IT setup. Bonus, with a Walmart Business Plus membership, you get free shipping, spend analytics, and 2% rewards. Join the smart way to shop at business.walmart.com. Terms apply.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, Samuel has some thoughts on the recording device from B. And if you recall, Amazon just agreed to buy the company.
Yeah, Samuel wrote, weighing in with my thoughts on the B story, I'm an early adopter of the B device and have absolutely loved it. As someone with brain damage from epilepsy, it was an amazing tool to help me take notes on everything from college courses to tabletop RPG sessions. I even used it to help me make show notes for my podcast. The user's expectation was that after we were done testing the device, we were probably going to have to start paying a monthly subscription for all the API use, and we were willing to do so. I just hope Amazon doesn't kill it off, as it will be very difficult for me to replace how useful this thing has been. Keep up the amazing work, Samuel.
Amazing. All right. Well, if you have experience or some insight into a story that you want to share with us like Samuel, or you just want to tell us what you're thinking about, email us feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
Yes, big thanks to Samuel for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. You can keep us in business by becoming a patron, patreon.com/DTNS. Talk to you Monday. This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show Briefing were created by the following people: host, producer, and writer Tom Merritt, host and writer Jason Howell, co-host Rob Dunwood, co-host Jen Cutter, co-host Winsway Dow, producer Anthony Lemos, producer Roger Chang, editor Hammond Chamberlain, editor Victor Bognot, science correspondent Dr. Nikki Ackerman, social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding, our mods: Beatmaster, W. Scottus1, BioCow, Captain Kipper, Steve Guadarrama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, a.k.a. Gadget Virtuoso, and and JD Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music provided by Martin Bell and Dan Luters. Art by Len Peralta. Acast ad support from Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Bobby Wagner. Our guest this week was Andy Beach. And thanks to all the patrons who make the show possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Any pickups, Hammett? All right. Ending 0.
Is your AI built for everyone? Or is it built to work with the tools your business relies on? IBM's AI agents are tailored to your business and can easily integrate with the tools you're already using. So they can work across your business, not just some parts of it. Get started with AI agents at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.